Let's start by examining a toy model of a convolutional neural network in TensorFlow. Initially, we will analyze CNNs from a computer science perspective and then from a neuroscience perspective. The input shape is three-dimensional, with the first two dimensions representing the image size and the last dimension indicating the number of color channels. The model is defined as a convolutional neural network with one filter of size 3 by 3. We will explain the purpose of the padding parameter in this context. The output is three-dimensional and flattened before passing through two dense layers. Our main focus is on how the filter generates output for a given input. The filter is a matrix of weights that slides over input data, like an image. Typically, the filter size is a 3 by 3 matrix. To understand how the convolutional layer works, let's fill the input and filter with arbitrary numbers. The filter is applied to the image, and a dot product, or weighted sum, is calculated between the input pixels and the filter. This result is stored in an output array. The filter then shifts by a stride and repeats the process across the entire image. It is clear that border pixels are processed less frequently than central pixels, potentially causing a loss of information near the edges. Additionally, the convolution operation reduces the output dimensions, which can be problematic when stacking multiple layers as the feature map shrinks rapidly. Zero padding addresses these issues by treating all parts of the input equally during convolution and maintaining the feature map size equal to the input. In convolution operations, the stride determines how much the filter moves across the input image. The default stride is one along the x-axis and one along the y-axis, shifting the filter one pixel at a time. Changing the number of filters to 2 results in 2 feature maps. When dealing with color images, such as an input with 3 channels, red, green, blue, each filter in the convolutional layer will have 3 channels corresponding to the image channels. These channels scan the image to produce 3 feature maps, which are then added up element-wise to create a single feature map for the filter. This map is then flattened for further processing. With 2 filters, we will have 2 feature maps. The picture illustrates a toy CNN model for grayscale images and a toy CNN model for RGB images. For more information on filter design in convolutional neural networks, you can refer to the following links. As a neuroscientist, I found it confusing to have a sliding filter across inputs. It's difficult to find the counterpart in the brain. In the retina and other relay stations in the visual pathway, receptive fields are present for feature detection. A ganglion cell receptive field is created by the convergence of photoreceptor outputs onto a single ganglion cell. The overlap of receptive fields is a crucial factor in determining which feature to detect. To simplify this concept, Let's consider a model where photoreceptors in a square receptive field converge on ganglion cells. This animation illustrates the connections between photoreceptor cells in a receptive field and a ganglion cell. Each ganglion cell can be identified by its position in a grid. The connections between photoreceptor cells in a receptive field and their corresponding ganglion cell can be seen as a densely connected neural network. Each connection has a weight parameter, and each ganglion cell has a bias parameter. The ganglion cell calculates a weighted sum of inputs, adds a bias parameter, and applies an activation function to generate an output. In our current scenario, we have 9 dense neural networks with overlapping inputs. While the model is simplistic, it aligns with biological principles. Here's the concept. If we assume that these 9 networks share the same weight and bias parameters, they collectively represent a feature map, with the shared parameters acting as a filter scanning the input. Introducing a second map would involve another set of shared parameters forming a separate filter. For a single filter, the number of parameters can be calculated as 7 times 7 plus 1. If the filter size is 3 by 3, we would have 10 parameters for the filter. Let's revisit our code for a toy model with 2 filters and grayscale inputs. The image size is 5 by 5, and the stride determines the degree of overlap between neighboring receptive fields. Valid padding means no padding, resulting in a smaller feature map size. We now know how to calculate the parameters for the convolutional layer and the fully connected network. Let's analyze a convolutional neural network designed for image classification using the MNIST dataset. As usual, we import the necessary libraries. We will use Polars instead of Pandas. Polars is designed for speed, performing common operations 5 to 10 times faster than Pandas. TensorFlow provides a collection of ready-to-use datasets, including the MNIST dataset. However, for a different approach, we will use the MNIST dataset in CSV format. The dataset we will use is obtained from Kaggle and stored on my Google Drive account. The dataset consists of MNIST train.csv with 60,000 training samples and MNIST test.csv with 10,000 test samples. Each row contains 785 values, the first being the label, 0 to 9, and the rest representing pixel values, 0 to 255. To prepare the dataset for the CNN model, we drop the label column to get input values in X, convert X to a NumPy array, and reshape it. Labels are stored in Y for the training set. The same steps are applied to the test dataset. We define a sequential model, with same padding for zero padding input images. Next, we discuss the concept of pooling. This is a feature map divided into 4 areas based on the pool_size parameter. Max pooling selects the largest element from each area to create a new map, while average pooling uses average values. Pooling reduces map dimensions and captures key features for processing. For more details about pooling, refer to the provided link. After pooling, we flatten the map and input the flattened data into dense layers for classification. You can pause the video to manually calculate output shapes and parameter numbers. We allocate 20% of the training data for validation and compile the model. In our previous multi-layer perceptron model, we used categorical cross-entropy as the loss function. What sets sparse categorical cross-entropy apart from categorical cross-entropy? Our CNN model has 10 output neurons for one hot encoding of digits 0 to 9. But the labels are integers from 0 to 9, not matching the expected one-hot coding. In sparse categorical cross-entropy loss, the target variable represents category indices from 0 to 9 instead of one-hot vectors. The model achieved 99% accuracy on the test dataset after training, with a similar result in an independent run. Next, we will explore building a CNN using PyTorch and delve into why CNNs excel in image classification. Thank you for your attention.